Dr. Dean Fanelli, a partner in the Intellectual Property Department of Seyfarth Shaw in the Washington, D.C. office. 20 years of experience in the pharmaceutical and the biotechnology business, and plenty to talk about regarding pharmaceutical and vaccine and everything else. And we welcome Dr. Dean to the airwaves once again. Dr. Fanelli, always great to have you.
Good to join you. Thank you for having me.
So the big news with Pfizer on Monday as the early look at data from its coronavirus vaccine shows it is more than 90% effective. That's a much better than expected efficacy if the trend certainly continues there. How excited in real time should we all be regarding this news, sir?
Well, I think we should be very excited. I mean, as you said, it's preliminary data. We'll have to look at it in the context of, the full phase 3 study. But, hitting a 90% mark, considering the FDA earlier this summer put out guidelines where they said they were looking for at least 50%. Now hearing that Pfizer's vaccine candidate hit 90% effectiveness, I think it's very promising.
And I kind of agree, although I have spoken to so many experts along the way, and the one thing I can't get out of my head, Dr. Fanelli, is this virus, the way it mutates. People have told me there's like 16 or so different arteries. How could you possibly control it with a vaccine? That kind of troubles me somewhat. Does it trouble you, and is that accurate? And if so, it is amazing that you have this number of being 90% effective as far as the vaccine is concerned.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And certainly, the 90% number is good, but we have to keep that in the context. Viruses do mutate. And what this vaccine is targeting is, you probably heard, the spike protein. That's that when you look at the pictures of the virus that's highlighted as red that connects to the human cell. And that seems to be consistent. So that's what's generating the immune response, the protein that's coded for that spike protein. So, when we look at this, you're absolutely right. We don't know. Will this be the type of situation where we have to have an annual coronavirus vaccine similar to the flu? There's still a lot of questions. But, when we take this and look at that number, 90%, I think it's a lot to be happy about, a lot to be positive about. And, it's just generally that's how science works. We have to look at this. Hopefully this won't mutate in the sense that the vaccine will lose effectiveness. But, as of now, it looks very good.
No question. Dr. Dean Fanelli with us. And, of course, we're seeing a surge like never before. Doctor, the first 10 days of this month, we're seeing 1 million plus cases. We're seeing almost 62,000 hospitalizations. I think that was the number at this point in time as far as a record is concerned on a Tuesday. Concerning stuff, surges galore. How do we hold on here? If we get a vaccine, maybe spring, maybe summer 2021, that is still some time to deal as far as what we're going through right now as a nation. How do we get this thing under control?
Yeah, so Pfizer's CEO said that they'll likely apply for what's known as emergency use authorization, in the next couple of weeks, meaning around Thanksgiving time. And if that's the case, we could see a vaccine on the market by the end of this year. That would be for high-risk people, I would suspect, healthcare workers and those with pre-existing conditions. But you're right, likely for the general population, you're talking probably end of Q1, Q2 before this is delivered. And until then, really the only way is, hopefully this politicization will die down. But the only way is really to wear that mask and social distance.
No doubt about it. Be safe. When you can't distance, you must wear the mask. And you see, so many situations around the country. Here on Long Island, we're seeing some spikes, Halloween parties, maybe some clubs, some situations of catering halls not adhering to the guidelines, the rules, 50 capacity, 50 people or so. Maybe it could be pushed a little bit more. That's a whole nother question, though. But we're also seeing some subsidiaries. We reported today regarding AstraZeneca, regarding the island, one of 5 sites where you have another vaccine from AstraZeneca or Zeneca will be tested. So, you're talking about NYU Langone's Vaccine Center, doctor, looking to enroll, I think it's 1,000 people or so, ages 18 to 85, phase 3 of a trial there, sponsored by the National Institutes of Health. So you have a lot of subsidiary things going on right now with this vaccine, too. Pfizer kind of leading the way with that number on Monday, but interesting to note, you have other areas as well surging.
That's right. So there's Pfizer certainly in the lead, but Moderna has a vaccine candidate that's also in phase 3. They're moving along nicely. As you mentioned, AstraZeneca has another one. Johnson & Johnson has a really promising one because you think the Pfizer, Moderna, they're two-shot vaccines. The Johnson & Johnson appears to be a single shot, which would be, a great thing, so you wouldn't have to have people comply with coming back a second time. But this is going to take multiple shots on goal. It's great news with Pfizer, but, vaccinating over 200 million people in the U.S., we're going to need more than one single vaccine candidate approved, and hopefully that occurs in the short term.
Question. So one thing, just getting back to the Pfizer situation where you had, I think it was 43,000 volunteers who got either 2 doses of this vaccine or a placebo, which, of course, is the fake stuff, folks. That's how they kind of determine what works, what doesn't. And it found fewer than 10% of infections were in participants who have been given the vaccine. So, again, more than 90% of the cases were in people who have been given a placebo. So, in essence, at what point in a trial, Dr. Fanelli, because we always hear about a case here or a case there where they were affected, the individual was affected negatively. At what point, is there a cutoff where they say, you know what, side effects and everything else, let's go back now, let's backtrack a little bit. Is there a number in mind with a Pfizer in which they keep an eye on that type of stuff as far as the number when it affects you negatively?
Yeah, so there's certainly internally the company's looking at the safety data. Externally, they have monitors. The FDA looks at this. So it's not necessarily a number. It's really we've heard over the summer the AZ trial was paused, as well as the J&J trial was paused. And the reason they do that is it's not that they hit a number, but, they look at the severity of each case. And if a certain subject that got the placebo or got the vaccine candidate, if they have an adverse effect, that could cause a pause. It's very common. And so they look at that on a case-by-case basis. And if it's severe enough, then they would stop the trial and they would have to examine it. And that's only after they're satisfied that, it wasn't directly related to the vaccine or it wouldn't have this, effect on a larger population, would they then resume.
Gotcha. So we'll keep an eye on things and hopefully more good news, I'll tell you, especially when this country right now is seeing the type of numbers that they are. Dr. Dean Fanelli, the partner in the Intellectual Property Department of Safe North Shore. Dr. Dean, thanks so much. Hopefully we'll talk to you again with some pretty good news as well, hopefully down the pike.
My pleasure. Thank you.